Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the third in our talk, Abstract Sounds, Concrete Images, or Concrete Objects, or whatever I call it. I don't even remember. I think it's different with every talk, but you get the picture. We're talking about music which is completely abstract. That is, we have no idea what the composer might have been thinking of when he wrote it, and he just called it symphony or quartet or trio or sonata or whatever it is, but the music is so graphic, so seemingly descriptive, even though we don't know what it's describing, that it creates images in our minds when we hear it. And we're talking about what those images are. And one of you, I'm so constantly thrilled, I have to say, by the perspicacity with which you guys listen. You folks, pardon me, I shouldn't say guys, I know. You folks listen and comment to me and give me ideas and hear what I hear. Because sometimes, when you think you've heard something and it's really, really vivid and no one else does, you think maybe you've gone crazy or there's something wrong with you. But in this case, I happen to have found a kindred spirit. One of you mentioned that the Scherzo, of the Dvořák String Quintet No. 3 in E flat, the American string quintet, not quartet. The end of the third movement sounds just like a train pulling into the station and stopping. And oh, you have no idea what that meant to me, because I wrote a whole book on Dvořák, as some of you may know. Hopefully you'll all rush out and buy it. It's really a good book. And I don't plug my books enough on these videos. I really should. I should push them much more and hold them up and pet them and stroke them. And it's okay. I wrote a book on Dvořák, a guide. And one of the things about Dvořák is that he had his fixations. One of them was birds. He raised pigeons. He was quite well known as a pigeon raiser person. And the other thing was trains. He was a train spotter. He was obsessed with trains. When he was in the New World, when he was in New York, he used to hang out at Grand Central Station and watch the trains come in and time them and see if they made their schedules. He was obsessive about it, absolutely obsessive. And in those days, in the early 1900s, Grand Central Station was sort of a little bit still out of the way. But he was always there watching the trains. And the sound of trains permeates his music in all kinds of fascinating ways. I make a list of some of his, what I call train tunes, in my Dvořák book. But now I have the opportunity to do a whole talk about Dvořák's train tunes and play the music that one of you mentioned, thank you very much, and some others. So you get a sense of just how pervasive this particular audio-visual image is. And we can speculate about what it might have meant for him. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful aspect of his personality, because Dvořák, as we all know, had such a personal and characteristic melodic style. His pigeons, for example, bird song generally, and maybe Fred the pigeon or František the pigeon, pardon me, it was a Czech pigeon, they may show up in some of his works too. The whole beginning of the 8th Symphony is bird song, bird calls. This music is full of the sounds of nature. And when you want to do nature, quite often you do birds. But his music is also full of the sounds of people, of industry, of the hustle and bustle of the city. And it's part of the tension in his work is caused by this contrast between the music that symbolizes nature and music that symbolizes us and activity and mechanism. And his music is so rich once you get to know it. People just don't understand just how great this guy was and how much there's really in there. And one particular avenue of entree, I think, is represented by his train tunes. And I just love these pieces. So I want to play you the end of the Scherzo of the string quintet number 3. He wrote 3 of them, but they're for different forces. There are two actual string quartets, and one is the one with double bass. That's number 2. So this is his regular string quintet for just two violas and cello and 2 violins, that kind of quintet, and it's just a stunner, absolutely a stunner. Here is the train slowing down and pulling into the station at the end of the Scherzo of String Quintet number 3. This is the Pinocchio Quartet on Supraphon as part of their series of their Dvořák boxes, which should be in every collection, by the way. These are glorious performances, wonderful, wonderful recordings, and boy, this is great stuff. So here's the end of that Scherzo. See if you hear the train. Stylized, yes, but still quite identifiable. And that's not the only train in Dvořák's chamber music. For my money, the most vivid train in all of Dvořák's chamber music is the last movement of his quartet number 12, the American Quartet. It is so obviously, to me, a choo-choo chugging along, and I just get the feeling. He wrote this quartet, in his summer residence in Spillville, Iowa. And he wrote it in something like a week or 5 days or something, just an amazingly quick period of time once he got to Spillville. And I have a feeling that what we are listening to when we hear this finale of the American Quartet is the train carrying the Dvořák family chugging its way across the prairie going to Spillville. I just know that's what it is. It has to be. And here again is the Pinocchio Quartet on Supraphon from their fabulous box of Dvořák's complete quartets and music for quartet. It's an astonishingly evocative little movement. See if you don't agree. Yeah, it's a train. It's got to be a train. I love that piece. I just love that piece. I think it just says so much about Dvořák's ability to take these images and turn them into great music while still preserving something of their essential character, which is that chugga 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 chugga, that motion. It's just wonderful. So let's turn from chamber music now to orchestral music. Now, trains obviously being, big hulking beastie things would translate very well to orchestral music. And as we know, there are many orchestral pieces that actually represent trains, from Villa-Lobos, the little train of Caipira, whatever that thing is called, from Bachianas Brasileiras No. 2. There's also Honegger's Pacific 231, and just lots of other pieces that represent the movement of trains. But I don't think anybody did it better than Dvořák. And there are more than two, but I'm going to just play two. The one that really struck me when I first heard it was the Scherzo of the Fourth Symphony. A symphony no one pays attention to, which has fabulous music in it, and the Scherzo may be the best movement. And the thing that's so cool about it is the main tune, which is a real sort of, I've been working on the railroad all the livelong day. It really sounds like that. It sounds like a train chugging along and someone singing a train tune while they're on the train. So here is the Scherzo of the Fourth Symphony. Listen for the train. These are all Václav Neumann's wonderful analog cycle with the Czech Philharmonic that's part of the big box of Dvořák's orchestral and symphonic works. This is another fabulous box. This whole edition is just wonderful. So anyway, here is the Scherzo of the Fourth Symphony, a train tune. Isn't that just great? I mean, can't you hear the whistle blowing? Rise up so early in the morning. I mean, you could sing that tune to this Scherzo. It would work perfectly. And one of the other train tunes that's really very, very interesting is the one in the finale of the New World Symphony. That too is a train tune, and we're going to play that. But there is a bit of folklore, percussive folklore, attached to that moment, because the end of the introductory theme, the introductory theme is a da 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 dum bum bum ba da da, right? And then there's a thing in the middle, and then it comes back, and then we're off on the train. Da 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 ba da da dum ba dum ba dum ba da 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 da. I'm going to play you this. You're not going to have to just listen to me sing it. But at the end of that passage, we have the single mezzo piano cymbal stroke in the entire symphony. Of course, if you're Eugene Ormandy or Leopold Stokowski, you might add a couple more loud ones. But that's all that he wrote. It's mezzo piano. It's like a half note with a thing, a tie or something. It's very strange. It's in a very odd place. It doesn't seem to mean anything that's inherently percussive in that moment. But if you think about it, if you think about a train putting on the brakes, and then the brakes relaxing and a hiss of steam coming up, right? But one of the things about it is that Dvořák, who at this point in his career, and I can just tell you this as a percussionist, was using suspended cymbals quite frequently. That was sort of his percussive discovery sound. Lots of composers have them. They have moments where they realize that you can do other things and just have a bass drum and a cymbal going bang, 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 bang like this, and do other things coloristically. And Dvořák was starting to get into the coloristic possibilities of percussion, which he exploited very extensively in all of the operas that came in the late 1890s and early 1900s. But in the New World Symphony, there's one soft cymbal crash. Most of the time, people use regular cymbals, and I just think that sounds all wrong. If you use a swoosh or a suspended cymbal, oh my God, what a difference it makes. And I'm going to tell you, because it sounds like the brakes of the train. That's the point. It's a train, and those are the brakes. Okay, let me show you what I mean here. I have my normal symphonic cymbals. Most performances, they just, I think, very insensitively do a little tiny cymbal crash. Like that, at the moment in question. Now, those who are more poetic and who understand what the symbolism of that cymbal crash must be can do two things. You can do a swish like this. You put one cymbal against the inside of the other, like that, quietly, so no one knows you're doing it. And then you go. That works rather better. But best of all is what I think Dvořák actually intended, which is his fabulous new percussion sound. The suspended cymbal. You just do this. Or actually, let me do a better one. You do this. There we go. That is your sound. I love that sound. The sound of the train brakes and the hiss of steam escaping as the train stops. And in this performance with Václav Neumann and the Czech Philharmonic, that is exactly what they do. Where is it? Oh, here it is. That's exactly what they do. So have a listen, and listen carefully. At the end of that passage, you will hear the swoosh of the train braking. Isn't that just infinitely more poetic? It's very funny. It's very funny how tiny details sometimes can make a big difference in how you perceive a passage, or how you could. The first time I heard that, and I heard it done with a regular cymbal, I didn't think much of it. But when you hear it done with a suspended cymbal, you go, ah, the train is stopping. It's braking. It makes a huge difference. It's very funny, but music is sound, and sound creates images. And this is a wonderful example, I think, of a case where that really is possibly speculatively the reality of what Dvořák might have been thinking, and the choice of instrument and how it's played makes an enormous difference in whether or not we apprehend exactly what's going on there. Anyway, even Dvořák was so obsessed with trains that he even stuck them into choral music, and particularly his requiem. Yes, it's a requiem of trains. There is in the Dies Irae, the opening Dies Irae chorus is the Hellbound train. It is absolutely one of Dvořák's most powerful, because it's the Dies Irae or the requiem, most powerful train tunes, and it has that chugga 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 sort of rhythm going all the way through it. And what really is fascinating about that is that, as you've heard, Dvořák's trains, they have the full gamut of emotional expressivity. You have happy trains, jolly trains, light and breezy trains, heavy duty trains. One of Dvořák's train images is the opening of the Seventh Symphony, which doesn't sound very train-like at all. You might not think, but it was suggested, and the tune came to him while he was standing on a railway platform waiting for the arrival of the train from Pest. And he said that, he tells us that. So we know that that was a train-inspired theme, that do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. And maybe with that underlying, that underlying accompaniment, that held tone, which gives the thing a kind of factory or mechanical kind of buzz. Maybe that's the train element. But one way or another, these things inspired him. And in the Dies Irae or the Requiem, we have one of his most powerful and most frightening train tunes. So here it is with Anthony Witt and the Warsaw Philharmonic on Naxos. Fabulous performance. I did a talk on the Dvořák Requiem, and this is one of the ultimate performances. It may be my reference recording. It's certainly one of them. This one, Anshel Kertész, one of those three. But you've got to hear the train in the Dies Irae. Here it is. Wait, there's more. No, there's something even fascinating, more fascinating about this. That rhythm, it's a 5-note rhythm, da-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-dum, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, da-da-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-dum, that you're hearing in the strings. That is the rhythm that you hear accompanying the main tune in the very, very first of Dvořák's symphonies. Ta-ta-ta-ta-tum, ba-ba-ba-ba-bum, ba-ba-ba-ba-bum, ba-ba-ba-ba-bum. The bells of Zvonice. That is actually the same rhythm, and it pervades Dvořák's work in the Requiem and in the First Symphony. Fascinating, huh? There's so much to get in this guy. I can't even begin to describe just how rich a mine of musical wealth lies in Dvořák and in a lot of the pieces that we don't know. But I just hope that this little chat about Dvořák's train tunes has given you some food for thought. And of course, if trains did not come to mind when I played any of this music, that's fair too. You can tell me what else it may have struck you as representing, if anything, or nothing. It could just be pure music as well, because it works all those different ways. And that's the fabulous ambiguity of music. And great music has more of that quality than any other. And Dvořák has got tons and tons and tons of that quality. So keep on listening, folks. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care.